Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and LEAP, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with Test School and Life based out of Rochester, New York.
Among us today, we have over 100 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to test and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is the Test and the Rest podcast. We are celebrating our 700th episode. Isn't that exciting?
Yay!
Yay!
Okay, before we really get excited, we should introduce our special guest and guest host, Scott Greenspan. Hey, Scott.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Amy. I'm excited to be here.
We are really psyched to have you on as the MC for this very special milestone episode. You are not a stranger to the podcast. You have been on Test and the Rest twice. You did a test prep profile back in episode 191. You came on and we spoke about how tennis and test prep are similar in episode 540. And basically, the three of us travel the United States together all the time. So we're always chit-chatting.
Yes, we are always chit-chatting. This is just going to be a continuation of our frequent chit-chats out west.
Well, we're excited to get into it, but before we do, love for you to tell listeners a bit about who you are and what you do besides talking with me and Amy.
Sure. I live in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago. I am the owner of Span Test Prep. We mainly focus on ACT and SAT prep, but we also do some college admissions work and some academic tutoring, mainly in the Chicago area. And I'm the board of the National Test Prep Association. So I've been doing that for a year. And I am friends with the two of you and excited to be here. This is my 28th year in with Span Test Prep and over 35 years of being an educator.
Outstanding. Well,
yes.
What do you think? Just so everybody knows, neither Amy nor I have any idea what Scott has in mind for us.
We cannot wait.
Yeah, these milestone episodes, we love to just turn it over to a friend and see what happens.
This is the best part. I have all the power.
You do have all the power. Mike and I are like, it's sort of at your mercy at this point.
Okay. Well, let's get going. So this being episode 700.
Yay!
Yay. Congratulations, by the way, on 700. That's quite a milestone. I thought the theme of 7 might repeat. I'm a numbers guy, so we're going to do a lot of things in 7s. And then we're also going to do a bit of an eras tour. I know Amy's a big Taylor Swift fan. So there's going to be
I'm
a
the Swiftie.
Yes, there's going to be a past, present, and future motif along with the theme of 7.
Cool.
So starting today, we're going to go back 7 years to the founding of Tests and the Rest. And we'll also look forward to the next 7 years. And if time allows, we'll talk a little bit about past, present, and future of National Test Prep Association as well. And I've got a few rapid fire rounds. So we're going to do all three of those things. So let's get started with what I'm calling Era 1. Era 1 is us traveling back 7 years in time to January of 2019. And what I'm interested in is if I were a fly on the wall in January of 2019, and I was listening to you two talk about the inception of Tests and the Rest, I'm wondering what that conversation sounded like.
What's funny about that is actually there is a recording of it I came across recently.
Yes.
Where you can watch and hear Mike and I talk about it. And I found it probably sometime last year. And really, I mean, initially it's the idea that we don't know anything about having a podcast. Like, I mean, in the sense of we are trying to figure out everything. So, and Mike, you know, Mike was great. Like Mike is like leading the charge. I will say I take credit.
You deserve credit. The
initiating-
podcast was your idea.
It was my idea, but I will give full credit to Mike Bergen for how deliberate and intentional he was in our conversations about things like what are we going to call it? What's going to be the name of it? Who's going to be our audience? You know, although ultimately I will say this much. One funny thing is I actually was the one who picked the music. I think I was the one who actually.
So, right. So I came up with music.
Mm-hmm.
I got some music and I like put some stuff together. And I had the thing that in my head, I heard a certain theme song and I played it for Amy. She was like, that is terrible. So we came around. I thought I found that music and you approved it.
Yeah, no, you did. The funny thing is, though, I think what's interesting about sort of how we put it together, there was a lot of back and forth, but I think the ideas, were kind of what were the things we had to settle on. And that was us, our initial how we navigated making decisions. And I think to both of our credit, we were really good about speaking up for things that we thought were important or deferring when there are things that the other person, thought was a good idea. And so that's always the interesting thing is I think how Mike and I banter back and forth to come up with good ideas or what we like or don't like. And so in the beginning, that was essentially that we had no idea what we were doing. And we each were sort of tasked with certain things like you need to figure out where we're going to do this, or you need to figure out how we're going to do this. And so this division of labor was sort of born with like homework assignments. Well, you figure this out while I figure that out. And I think that was the cool thing in the beginning was this partnership of who's doing what. And then that kind of continued on as we then were, what are the topics? Who are the guests we want? And I think, Mike, how many we knew we didn't really start recording, I think, till March of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But then we launched in June of 2019, where Mike was great. He's like, we need a certain amount of episodes. So we were recording so that we could release with sort of a batch of them.
We had 10, we had 10 in the can before we even published the first, so that we knew that we wouldn't run out of steam. The key with starting a podcast is once you start and you get people listening, you have to be regular about it. What I'm excited about when we think about those days, because right, it was so out of the blue. Do you want to do a podcast? It's not like our audiences, our colleagues or people in our industry were screaming for a podcast on testing and admissions and all of that, but we really wanted to do it. I had some experience launching, websites in the past, so I knew kind of what we had to scope. But when Amy came to me, I did a lot of research, and it was clear, how often you should publish a podcast, what the ideal length is, and all of that. And can you believe if you listened to that recording of us brainstorming the podcast, everything is the same. Everything we came up with,
yeah,
we
was the
still
same.
do today.
It didn't change. The funny thing is, though, the only 2 episodes that are just the 2 of us are episodes 1 and 2. So those first 2 we recorded with just the 2 of us. But we knew that one thing that was really important was we always wanted an expert guest. So the idea would be who's the expert guest, who's the topic, and really like we knew exactly sort of how we wanted it to go down. But the funny thing is at that point in time, Mike, probably maybe in our test prep circle, maybe there were 15 to 20 people at that point. Now, there are
well,
hundreds, if not thousands of people.
We started the Test Prep Tribe Facebook group in order basically to have a place to talk about the podcast.
Right.
and then we
little do tribers know we created the group simply for our own little forum, right? For the podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I know that I have a feeling we're going to use up all our time on just this. So,
Yes.
So Scott,
in your wildest dreams, did you ever think it would go 700 episodes? Like, what were the chances of that in 2019?
We never talked about the future. We never.
We did. We committed to 1 year.
1 year. Okay, that's the only commitment I remember is saying we're going to do this for a year. But I think we had no idea. We never talked about like goals in terms of like we want X of this or Y of that. Yeah. That was not something we said. It was more of let's do this for a year. Let's see where we're at the end of the year. And of course, COVID hit well within the year marker. So there was plenty to talk about at that point in time.
Yeah, that's great.
But there were points at which, we definitely had to reflect on the idea of where we're going and what we're doing. And I think we both agree that as long as we're having fun together, we want to keep doing it. And I don't want to do it without Amy.
And I don't want to do it without Mike.
And I don't want to be a host unless it's with the 2 of you.
We're all agreed.
We're all on the same page. Okay, next question. Era 2. Let's talk about present day tests and the rest. What will TATR look like in 2026? What are your plans?
Hmm.
Well, the podcast always continues. I think one of the things we're really lucky about now is that in the early days, we were the ones having to do like conversations about topics and guests. And there was a lot of work behind making, we were creating the ideas. Now we're kind of fortunate because we do get, approached by a lot of different people. So we get to pick and choose a little bit more. But I don't want to say like I think the podcast. I mean, the only different thing today, Mike, than before was we release with one episode a week on Tuesdays. There was a long period of time where we actually did Tuesdays and Fridays,
Yeah.
where we were releasing two a week. And then we pulled back on that because honestly, quite frankly, there was a period of time where it was just I just didn't have the bandwidth to do two. So I don't know. I mean, well, the big thing was releasing XTemp when we started doing the
Yeah.
XTemp episodes.
That was a
That
change, and I guess that was last year or the year before that we started
a
doing
little
it.
over a year ago, I think. A little
Yeah.
over a year ago. Yeah. Where we get to go back to being Mike and Amy again, where it's just the two of us, but chit-chatting about whatever, we want to talk about. But as far as 2026, I don't necessarily know that with the podcast itself, there's any idea, vision of changing.
We have ideas, right? We talk about maybe doing a Test and the Rest book.
Yes, that's
We
our big.
always think about, should we do something more with our YouTube channel? But Amy and I are taking on a really big project in 2026, and that might require us to hold off on doing anything more ambitious than the usual with the podcast.
Right. I think I know what it is. Is that something we should mention now, or should we
Sure.
wait for another episode?
No, Scott, you should mention it. What do you think we're talking about?
We're talking about India.
Yeah,
India.
yeah.
Yes.
Talking about planning the Global Forum for
Oh,
Test
Mike,
Prep
it's
and
Global
Admissions.
Test Prep and Admissions Forum.
Yes.
That
You
is
can
what
tell
it
that
is.
the name is a little bit
.com.
in process
It's
right
not
now.
rolling off the tongue
All
yet,
those
Mike.
words are in it, but the order is to be determined.
To be determined. It's like musical chairs. Yeah, no, I mean, that's our big project that Mike and I are launching, planning, with Sonia and Neil,
Sonia
right?
Matalia and Neil
Neil
Seltzer.
Seltzer. Basically a global forum of test prep and admissions professionals. I mean, not necessarily in the US. So the idea is in Mumbai, India, in mid-November of 2026, hosting a conference that is, well, I don't want to say it's on the order of now. I mean, Mike and I hosted our first conference, as you know, in Boca Raton, Florida in January of 2020 as a result of the podcast. And Scott, you attended that.
I
The
did.
idea is
That's where I met you, Scott.
Yes.
that's where we both
I met both of you.
met you. But the idea is to bring what we do to a much wider audience. And Scott, we love to travel. So this idea of being able to do what we love in a completely different part of the world and to assemble a whole new community of test prep professionals is like ridiculously exciting for all of us, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of our big challenges of 2026 is convincing you to join us in India. So we might not have time to do much more with the podcast than we normally.
The podcast will continue as it is now. But the good news is just always new guests, new conversations, and who knows where this test prep and admission world is going. So the conversations are always evolving based upon what's happening in the world around us.
We'll have to get our buddy Claire and talk about Western Adventure Club in India in 2026. We'll see where that goes.
Have to
Exactly.
be West India.
Yes. Okay. Era 3 is going to be future. So do you have a thought about 7 years from now? 2033, if I'm not doing the math correctly. What is
Could you imagine,
rest?
Amy, that we'll be able to do 1,400 episodes?
Well, here's what I will say. When you say the year 2033, that's actually a banner year. Now, I don't know if either of you can tell me why 2033 is a banner year for me.
I think you are
And
our
it's-
resident expert on that topic.
It is the year in which my youngest child will graduate from high school,
Wow.
Yay.
That's
which will
amazing.
mean, right? And I think about this because the college admission space, the test prep space, I currently have a child that, I mean, I'm grooming to be part of that. But the idea is in 2033, I will finally become an empty nester.
Mm.
So I always joke, I have skin in this game for a lot longer than you two. And so for me, I have to stay until 2033 because the conversations about what we do are going to be very relevant to me personally.
I think
That's
the
awesome.
more interesting question might be, will there be podcasts? Will
Well,
podcasts
there's
be a thing? I mean, 7 years before we started the podcast, I don't think there were podcasts. There were other forms of, say, videos or something like
sure.
that, but there wasn't really
As a
what we
medium,
called
it's only been
podcasts.
around.
So,
Yeah.
so will Tess and the rest be able to navigate whatever future technology has to offer for us?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what that frontier looks like, but I have no doubt that I think the conversations that Mike and I can continue to have that will go on. I mean, I think it was interesting in the beginning. We were like, well, we have enough conversation. It's like we clearly know now that the industry that we're in, there's just always so many
Oh
things
yeah,
to
we
talk
never
about.
run out of things to talk about.
We never
Right.
run out of things to
And
talk
there's
about.
so many experts out there with fantastic takes. There are so many of our colleagues where we love to talk about the fine points of testing, admissions, and education. So that won't be an issue. We'll definitely still be talking a lot. We just
You
will
know, we'll
test and the
never
rest
shut
need to
up,
be a
Scott.
Oh gosh, it's impossible to shut you guys up.
yeah.
As
No,
as you were talking, I was somehow hearing Star Trek Final Frontier in my mind, like 2033, tests and the rest, the final frontier.
no, that's the next generation,
Oh, even better.
The next
like
generation.
literally
Lit-
generation.
Literally
Well,
generation.
actually, what would be interesting, I think, I mean, it's possible. I would say I don't necessarily see I don't see the podcast going away. I do see Mike and I embracing different things for the podcast in terms of the format of it, or how can we make it more interesting, for people. That's what I could see iterating more than anything else, really.
For sure.
That's great. Thank you for those answers. Can we do a rapid fire round?
Yeah, you're
I'm
in
ready.
charge.
All right. I've got 7 questions. I don't know how rapid these rapid fire questions are, but I think they're semi-rapid. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Question number one. If you could choose a theme song for your life, what would it be?
Song.
Ooh, a theme song.
I was playing Trivial Pursuit this week, and I'm really, or like this idea of coming up with something like a theme song.
I'm stumped. A theme song.
Wow, I stumped
Most of
you.
the songs that I like I love blues and I love, I don't know. I like a lot of morbid songs and
Well,
edgy
choose a
songs,
morbid
and I
song
don't
to
really
tell
want
your life
any of
story.
them. I guess Bad to the Bone would be
Okay, there we go.
To the
Okay,
bone.
Amy, you're up.
bad.
I don't know why. The title that just popped into my head is "I'm Still Standing."
There
Okay,
you go.
let me
There you
down.
go.
Right? That's what popped into my head to answer that question. If it's rapid fire, that's what I got for you.
Good. Okay, number two. What's your dream vacation spot?
Dream. I will say Thailand. I'm a White Lotus watcher, and I never would have thought I would have said that, but obviously, like for me, going to sort of the Far East, so seeing that show and watching those resorts in Thailand, I'm
Mhm.
like, if I ever get to Thailand, although of course only Thailand with the both of you in tow, of course.
Oh,
I,
that's a dream indeed. I think that my dream vacation, because I'm always traveling somewhere, is a really long tour of Australia and New Zealand. Like it's got to be months because I
Mhm.
just don't want to take that plane ride too many times. But
Exactly.
I want to spend at least a month in Australia and at least a couple of weeks in New Zealand.
Yeah,
I like both of those ideas. Let's plan it.
get it on the books, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next question. Your biggest fear in one word.
Disappointing. My biggest fear is to disappoint people,
Mhm.
right? To do the thing or do the thing in the way that somebody's disappointed me, I would say. Yeah.
Good. Thanks,
Mm.
Mike.
Oblivion.
Ooh, also a good one. I
You
like
want to
this one.
clarify Oblivion
This
test
is
for us,
fun.
Mike?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think it really speaks for itself, right? That's the whole point. There's nothing.
It is an ideal one-word answer. Just ends at
Just
the
let it
just let it sit
Oblivion,
there.
period.
Okay, number four. You can name one person with whom you'd like to have dinner in 2026. That person can be either living or past. It could be historical. Name the person.
I think I would love to have dinner with Jimi Hendrix.
Ooh, I love
That
that
guy
one.
just seems like like he was the coolest guy, and you know, just decades after his demise, his work still brands him as a visionary. I wonder where his head was at.
Mhm.
I think for me, I don't know why. I'm fascinated with George Washington in the last few years. The idea of first beginning something with no idea in mind where it's going to go. And I think I'm fascinated with this idea of George Washington being the first president of our country and like democracy. And I think in some respects being like, do you have any idea what you were about to do? So for
Right.
me, I find George Washington to be like really, really amazing. Obviously, they accomplished a lot of different things, but most of which is to create something and then walk away from it.
That's a
That's
great. I
something.
mean, there's so many good choices. I'm curious, Scott. I know that you're the one who's asking the questions, but who do you think of when you imagine dinner with one person?
Oh, that's unfair. I'm not prepared. But I would
This
like
is
Rapid
a
fire,
speed round.
Scott.
I was just thinking as you were asking that, what if we had George Washington and Jimi Hendrix at the same
Oh
time?
man, now we're talking. Everybody pull up a chair. Come on over here.
Now you're talking like
Introducing
Bill
my
and
friend
Ted's
George.
Excellent Adventure, where you're assembling, right? Like
That's
this
right.
very eclectic group of people.
That'd be a blast.
I think my answer is Isaac Newton.
Yeah,
Ooh,
sure.
And
yes.
just from a science and math perspective and how cutting edge his thoughts were, when most people didn't agree with him and he ended up being so influential.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
truth.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Your ideal superpower.
Mm. Reading people's minds.
Yeah,
I would
imagine.
just
That's
love to read
dangerous.
people's mind. I mean,
Be
to be
careful what
fair,
you ask for.
I know that there's a risk, right? To be able to read people's minds is to be able to you know, hear things or see things that are probably you don't want to hear, but I spend so much time ruminating about things. And so I think that just being able to read their minds would save me a lot of trouble in advance.
I would love to be able to shape change into different kinds of animals. I'd
Ooh,
love to have the opportunity to fly. I'd love to have the opportunity to sense the world the way a dog does. Like there's so many different facets of animals' interrelationship with reality that we have no access to. And I'd
mhm.
love to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What's your greatest motivation?
For me, it's the game itself. I just love the work. And that's the motivation. It's like the chance to keep doing the work and try to do new things. And I like blazing trails. So it's like doing something new.
That's cool. Amy?
I always say that if it scares me, I need to do it. Now, of course, you guys both know that I have two exceptions, and it's called crime and drugs. Those are my two exceptions from doing things that frighten me. But I think the idea of being fearless, like something that scares you, is compelling. And so for me, overcoming fears, doing things that I never imagined myself doing. And you guys get to see that with me, right? You guys have got to experience Amy doing things that she never imagined.
Hmm.
Yeah.
In
True.
2025 was definitely snowmobiling. That was one of them. Um, but I love this idea of not being afraid of things. I guess the latest one I will say, I'll tell you, is the idea of scuba diving scares me to
Yeah.
death. But I'm like,
All
oh, I
right.
feel like it's in my future at some point in time, right?
How wild would that be, right?
I know, I know.
Amy, I think it was when your sister said, I didn't see snowmobiling on your bingo card for
She
2025.
said
And then
she
it
didn't
showed
see a
up.
lot of my 2025 bingo card.
Let's add to that in 2026.
That is truth.
Yeah. Okay, last of the seven. Which mentor influenced you most significantly?
Hmm.
Honestly, I will say this, and this is Mike continues to be such an amazing mentor to me. professionally, personally. Like I feel like Mike is my greatest cheerleader. I mean, people don't know that. Like in terms of like, working with Mike, I just feel like I'm always learning things. I'm always being challenged. But at the same time, he encourages me to stand up or say things like to do things, and to be a leader, to be more assertive, to have ideas and to express those ideas. And so I really, truly, honestly, you know, I feel like it was serendipity that I met Mike back in 2017. It almost feels like serendipity that I asked him to be a podcast partner. But this continued relationship that I have with him is very deliberate, intentional because he does so much for me. And I thank you for that, Mike. I have so much gratitude for, how much you give me and you have given me over these years.
Well, that means so much to me, Amy.
Mm.
That's really beautiful.
And to me.
You could be my mentors too, Scott, if you like. But Mike and I think the thing is, Mike and I, in developing the podcast, there was so much time, even with COVID, that Mike and I were on Zooms together, and it just, I was always learning, like always learning and thinking and having ideas and, operating those ideas, and I really appreciate that.
Mike, you have an answer?
That's a great answer.
That's a great answer. I'm wondering if you have an answer to your greatest mentor.
It doesn't have to be me, Mike. No.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not me.
I'll pick someone else here. My greatest mentor, I think, I'm not going to say a person who I've worked with or I know personally, but kind of a continuum from Sun Tzu to Miyamoto Musashi. I've always been influenced by strategists. So, like, when I try to think about how to live, it's one of two ways. It's either learning from the strategists about how to conduct affairs for success, or the Stoics on how to appreciate what you have, feel gratitude, and not want too much. So those are kind of like my basket of mentors.
I think you just clarified why Mike is my mentor. I'm always learning from him, or I'm always Googling something that I'm like, wait a second. Remind me again who the Stoics are.
Marcus Aurelius. Start there.
I'm wondering, is there a strategist who is also a Stoic?
I mean, I think that Marcus Aurelius is famous for a lot of things, but what resonates throughout history is just his really stark pragmatism. Mm-hmm. It's when you read his quotes, they're just so powerful and spare. But he's not, like when we think about strategy, who do we think about? We think about Machiavelli. We think about Sun Tzu. Like we think of the plotters, the planners.
Yeah. Let's invite Marcus Aurelius to that dinner as well.
I mean, it'd be amazing. I thought about him, but he probably doesn't like to eat as richly as I do. I was like, I don't want to sit there and have to have bread and water with the guy.
He's not a foodie like Mike. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. He'd probably look down on that.
Okay, so this is fun. I'm having a great time. Thank you for letting me do this. I want to go back to the ERA tour again, 1, 2, and 3, and let's talk about NTPA. Let's talk about National Test Prep Association. And I'm just going to lay all 3 questions out there at the same time and let you guys run with it. We've got like 7 years before, which maybe we can only go back 5 or 6 years, but let's go back in time and let's answer that question like someone's a fly on the wall and you two, or maybe I'm there, are talking about NTPA. What does that sound like? And then let's morph into present day and let's talk about the future. What is the future of NTPA?
Well, I'll go back to the past. I think for me, in terms of NTPA, was this idea of just creating a community. And I think, and it's true, like we had to create a community at large in the Facebook group to understand how we wanted something that was more professionally oriented, right? Like that we knew the people who were joining a group like had real professional goals. And so to me, I laugh, like I just like having conversations. I mean, that's essentially where the podcast sort of came from. But this idea of having more conversations and conversations around something like my business, right? My lifeblood, it was like, who wouldn't want that? And so for me, this idea of creating that, and I sometimes, I will say this, I have some limitations in many ways, but what I'm most proud of is that there are lots of other people that, like, especially Mike and me, have been able to find that have taken things that we had ideas about or we were interested in or we wanted to start, and they've elevated them to another level. So to me, that is the exciting thing, is to start something and then say, you tapped me out. You got all the goods I have. So now you add your goods to make it even better. That's how I think about the past to, let's say, into the present or potentially the future of NTPA.
Yeah, I think that when we followed the breadcrumb trail all the way to the beginning, when Amy and I first met, we've both always been motivated by wanting things in our professional lives. We come from the tradition where test prep is a very lonely, isolating profession, and everybody's working separately and not even knowing what other professionals were doing. And we both responded to every opportunity for community. And then we were in a position where we could start creating some. And Test and the Rest reflects the conversations that we wanted to have and the network of educators that we wanted to bring together. The Test Prep Tribe Facebook group was the next step. And then there was the conference. And it was all because we wanted it. We wanted a Facebook group.
It was
We
very
wanted a
self-interested.
conference. Now, but none of it works if we're the only ones who want it. If when enough people want the same things that we want. And when in BOCO we discussed what we needed, what test prep professionals needed, and the kind of organization that we really were suffering from not having. And so many people were like, yeah, that's what we want, and let's make it happen. So the National Test Prep Association emerged because no one else created it for us, and so we worked together to create it. And now that it exists, nobody wants it to go away. Everybody loves it. Of course we knew it was a great thing, and it's in such great hands now. And we were just discussing how now I'm not on the board, Amy's not on the board. It is self-sustaining and continues to provide everything that we and so many other people want and need.
Right. And that's I think the cool part is to realize how I wanted something. And in meeting Mike, together we were like, we want similar things. And what's beautiful is every time we meet someone new on this sort of journey that is like, wow, I didn't even know that these people existed.
That's
so
the
beautiful.
Constant refrain at the conference. How did you find out about us? Oh, I just learned about you online, and I said, I can't believe that I didn't know about this, and I showed up, and I'm going to come to every conference now. That's always that response and recognition.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Amy, the cool part for me is exactly what you're both are saying is we all need a water cooler. We just need colleagues to chat with. And I think everyone knew that for years, but no one put it into motion until Tribe and NTPA and Test.
Well, it's like nobody thought about it.
But we need more than just a water cooler, right? We need, I think you understand this, we need ethical guidelines. We need professional development. We need advocacy. We need opportunities for our leaders to lead and our learners to learn, and then for people to rise through the ranks as they grow in competence and confidence. Like we need what most professions have. And we're starting to have that. The water cooler is essential, of course.
Yeah.
But there's so much more that a nonprofit industry association has been able to provide. And I think that's been really special, that the NTPA has never been a profit generator for anyone.
Right. We all kind of share in the fruits of the organization, right? Like, and we've seen that, right? We are at the point now where we're seeing so much benefit to so many people who've been around for a while. And that to me is a beautiful thing, is to realize how others are benefiting, but at the same time, giving back. The giving back is the part now that I think that's kind of rewarding, is obviously with your efforts in joining the board, Scott, is like other people want to to be a part of that in terms of leadership, which is wonderful.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I'm so happy to be part of this iteration of the board. I didn't get to serve on the board with you, Mike, but I've certainly heard a lot about it in all our conversations, and I got to serve 1 year with Amy, and I will continue to be connecting the two of you to whatever we're doing in NTPA, that's for sure.
And
Yeah.
hopefully Scott inspired to come up with new things, right? Like it's just that the idea is that it's never, it's not stagnant, right?
And I'm excited about my role now to help develop the future leaders of the organization. Like that's to me a really special privilege.
Right? You get to work on LDP, and Amy is going to stay with membership. And yeah, we're not losing the two of you anytime soon.
No, you are not.
Not even if we want to.
Not if you want to.
So what about the future? Like, where does NTPA 2033 land? What do you guys have a glimpse into the future 7 years? Where
I
are we
think,
at?
I mean, my big thing would just be in obviously membership growth. This idea of more and more people becoming aware of the organization and reaping the benefits. So obviously there's this idea of growth of membership, but at the same time, I think I'd love to see us at a place in NTPA where we have the resources to kind of be even more, the world at large is aware of us and, like just that there's more energy behind it. There's more. I'd love to see the point at which there's a full-time salary position for an executive director,
That's
because
what I was
obviously
thinking.
the work
Yes.
of the board is a volunteer board that meets every week and puts so much energy and effort. That's the thing that, Scott, you probably saw, and we've heard people say who've joined the board is like, we had no idea how much work you people do. And it's like, and it's not something we want to talk about, but it's what we just did. And so I think this idea of a full-time salaried position for an executive director, full-time, let's say admin, to me would really feel like, wow, there's someone who that's the thing they're doing every day of the week. Because right now you have a lot of business owners putting the energy or effort, which is great. But at the same time, as business owners, you got to put that energy effort towards your business.
Yeah. What Amy said. NTPA will arrive when we have enough members to support uh, executive leadership separate from the board. And then just to continue to explore what does it mean to be this already international test prep association? What falls under that purview? It's not just SAT and ACT prep. It's high school testing prep. It's state testing. It's grad testing. Why doesn't it expand to all of the testing around the world and the
But I,
cacao and the levels in the UK? Like there's so much overlap and there's a lot to explore.
I just think probably one of the most amazing things is that Mike and I started this journey for our industry before there was this amazing threat to the industry, i.e., COVID and test optional. And there's something now about feeling like we've weathered that storm. But at the same time, in weathering the storm, there was safe harbor for people who probably thought in early 2020, I don't know if my business will still be here. And so I think there's this great satisfaction I feel of like, wow, we weathered probably the most significant threat to our industry. And we are now on the other side. And I think that to me is so personally gratifying of like, we made it. We made it here. So how can we not make it 10, 20, 30 or more years beyond that?
I love that. That definitely gets us another seven.
I'll take 7. I'll take
For
7.
sure, for sure to 2023. Mike, I was going to ask, I don't know if this question has an answer, but do you have a sense, or Amy, how many members NTPA would need to sustain a full-time admin? Is there some magical number?
No, I
I've got to
wonder if
think like
MJ's crunched the numbers on that.
that's an interesting question, Scott. That's some homework for you to take back to the board. I don't know.
Okay.
I could think like maybe 500.
I would love to. I mean, that seems like a nice round number, right? And the NTPA could be there in a couple of years. I would love to interact with IACA and find out at what point in their development they took Mark Sclaro on,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because he definitely changed the trajectory of the organization. And I look to an organization like IACA as what the
A
NTPA
model.
can model and try to achieve the cohesion and coordination that they managed to pull off. They do have full-fledged regional uh, events. They do have tons of professional development. They just do so many things right that the NTPA can learn from. I know there are other organizations too. I just think about IACA because,
Well, their industry was poised for growth in just the college sector.
sure.
I think that with this return to tests required that we're starting to see every week, there's no reason to think that our industry couldn't see this growth because of the fact that in a way that now we know once the colleges go back to being test required, they're pretty much solidifying their position on testing, kind of, I
Yeah,
think.
it's really never been about the growth. It's never been about how many dollars you attach to test prep and tutoring in the United States or worldwide. It's awareness among educators of what we do, and that the college admissions consultants, if we look to them as adjacent professionals, they just have a much more advanced and sophisticated culture of professional organization and development. Tutors, test prep professionals have always been disintermediated, fragmented, the Wild West, never wanting to join any club that would have them as members. So that's like for us, it's just civilizing the savages that we were.
I was not a savage. Let that go on the record.
I like that. The title is Civilizing the Savages.
I mean that sounds sounds too colonial. Let me rephrase
Hey,
that.
let's go back to George Washington. That's where it all started.
Right, that's the strategy. It's just this idea of kind of opening up the culture about how you don't have to go it alone. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of tutors go through is that tutors are the type of people that are educated. They're self driven learners. So they think, well, I can do it. I don't need other people. And we've been to the other side. We know all of the benefits. And we know that when you start working with other professionals with the same goals and something to teach you, you just get better faster. And
Well,
that,
and that's the
that accrues to your students.
right, and that's the critical thing is I think for many of us in meeting up with and working with other people in the same industry is how we make each other better, right? Even if you thought you were, the best thing, right? The best test prep person is hearing other people say, wow, I had no idea how much I was going to learn from other people, and I think that's a beautiful thing is to say we're making each other better, which is what I love to hear.
Right. How many times have we heard that from NTPA members? I
Mhm.
thought I knew everything. I thought I knew so much more. And then I came to a conference or,
Mhm.
joined a mastermind and realized just how little I really knew.
Mhm.
It's powerful.
All
Yeah.
right. Listen, Scott, we would love to talk about ourselves all night. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being our special guest host for our 700th episode.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
If listeners would like to get in touch with you, maybe to book you for their podcast, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
My website is spantestprep.com, and you can look me up on Facebook or any of the social medias.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next test and the rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.